alert, hangover cures don't work. If you've overindulged the night before, no amount of Gatorade and B vitamins is going to stop you feeling like death warmed up the next morning. But a shot of ZBiotics just might, claims founder Zach Abbott.
A small amount of the alcohol you drink, but gets broken down in the gut, in large part by your microbiome, before it's absorbed into the bloodstream, but before your liver has access to it. And even though this is a small amount of alcohol that's being broken down there, it is largely being converted into this toxic byproduct acetaldehyde. Your liver can convert that acetaldehyde into acetate, but the gut's not very good at that.
So you've engineered a bacterium that can express the enzyme that breaks down this acetaldehyde, is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So rather than building, an expensive precision fermentation business to produce this enzyme, then extract it and, sell it, you're kind of putting the bacterium itself into a shot.
You can go through the whole process of doing, as you say, fermentation to make the enzyme and then encapsulate the enzyme. If you're lucky, you get that through the stomach acid, and then that enzyme can be functional for maybe at best an hour or two.
Yeah.
But the idea of delivering the bacteria to continually make that enzyme the entire time it's in the gut means that we get longer activity, and we can actually get more enzyme delivered over time. So that was really the idea. And so the bacteria are already capable of making it through your stomach acid unharmed. They're naturally evolved to express lots of enzymes in your gut, and so we engineered to make this one extra enzyme that we know is useful to you.
You're using Bacillus subtilis, which is a spore former. So is it kind of in a dormant state, but then wakes up when it gets into your gut then?
Exactly. That's exactly the idea. That it was great. Bacillus subtilis came as a spore former, comes with pre-packaged with all this capability. So in that spore form, it's very resilient. It can resist large changes in temperature and also pH, so that means it's shelf stable for a long time. And then also when you drink it, it can pass through your stomach acid unharmed, and it already naturally has the ability to, once it gets out of the stomach and into the small intestine where the pH elevates, it will sense that environment as well as all the nutrients and then wake up or germinate out of its dormant state and then start becoming active and expressing protein.
Okay, this all sounds great, but how big of a contributor is the buildup of acetaldehyde in the gut to hangovers?
We know that the next day effects of drinking and hangover is a myriad of things. And so, we knew that acetaldehyde is highly toxic. We also knew that the gut was a major source of acetaldehyde. All these things were established prior. And so really we had the hypothesis that eliminating a toxic molecule would help you feel better. But honestly, when I built the product, we weren't sure exactly what level of impact it would have. Like, would it be very large or partial or what? And so it was kind of, nobody had ever before decoupled gut acetaldehyde from all the other things.
How do you actually know that your bacterium is actually emerging from its dormant state in the gut, with the changes in pH, and actually producing this enzyme?
We did gut simulated conditions. We don't have access to ileostomy patients, so we can't really, and we're opposed to doing kind of like unnecessary animal testing. So we haven't shown directly in that sense, but showing that all the things that correlate with that are still true in our strain. And then in addition, we also see that there's an effect of the product, right? And so I think that gives us a lot of confidence as well. And we see that effect is not the case with just like a standard Bacillus subtilis probiotic. So, we thought it was really important in the early days to understand who our customer was, and direct to consumer is really the best way to do that. Now that we sort of established some of that understanding and that relationship with our customers, we launched an Amazon, which has been incredibly successful. It's a great marketplace, but in reality, you're not always planning 3 to 4 days ahead before you're drinking. Sometimes it happens in that moment, and so brick and mortar is a really important piece of the puzzle. And this year in particular, we're focusing heavily on launching a brick and mortar. We've done some early launches in California and Bevmo and Earth Bar, which is a smoothie bar in an Equinox gym. So we see that wellness and exercise in where people are investing in their health is actually a great place for our product, because that's really what the product is about, is investing in your health and making sure you maintain your healthy habits and routines.
So who is the heaviest kind of purchaser of your product? Is it kind of middle-aged people like me that can't drink like we used to, or is it a younger audience?
No, it's more the former. It's people who I think in addition to the fact that alcohol starts to kind of affect us more profoundly as we get older, it also is the case that we have more to lose. This product does not make alcohol any safer or better for you. It just enables you to feel better the next day so that you can maintain your healthy habits and routines. And so it still requires responsible drinking. And so, for instance, on our box, when you get the product, it says your first of many good decisions, like the idea of this is not a good gel-free card. This is like one more tool in the tool belt, in addition to making sure you're not drinking on an empty stomach, you're pacing yourself, you're getting plenty of sleep. All those things are incredibly important as well. To date, we've sold over 8 million bottles of the product, and so it's going really well. And I'm just very excited about kind of the future of genetically engineered probiotics. I think that we started to lay a foundation for a category.
Yeah, so I mean, what's next in the world of kind of designer probiotics? What else are you working on?
I'm really excited about our first product, but that being said, it was really meant as a proof of concept, as a way to show that we could actually engineer a probiotic to do something that you could feel that was useful. But there's so many more things we could do. I never wanted to build a company that was just focused on that. And so our second product, which we launched about 6 months ago, converts sugar into fiber in your gut, taking a bacteria that we engineered to express an enzyme that essentially takes sucrose, table sugar, which is glucose and fructose stuck together, and so it splits them apart, and then it takes the fructose and it stacks it together into an oligofructose called levain. And so this is a rare fiber, and it's mostly found in the fermented food natto. The fermentative agent is our bacteria, Bacillus subtilis. So it has this enzyme that can take these sugars and put them into fibers. But natto is basically the only place you can get levain fiber. It's a very rare fiber, and it's very beneficial. There's been a lot of studies that show kind of the way it helps the gut and short-chain fatty acid production. So we thought, like, look, we can basically turn any food you're eating into like a source of this levain fiber, which is pretty cool. And so it allows people to get not only more fiber from the foods they're already eating, but also get a rare fiber that increases the diversity of the types of fiber that you're getting in your diet. It's a powdered drink mix, so I actually mix it with my breakfast cereal, but so you can mix it with food or drink. And then the idea is that you take that at the same time every day, and then the bacteria is essentially in your gut all the time. So all day long, as you're eating foods, it's pulling small amounts of the sugar that you're already eating, and then converting that into small amounts of probiotic fiber. So you're getting this sort of slow drip of fiber naturally from the foods you're already eating all day long.
So how have you actually validated this second product?
Yeah, so I mean, we're in the process of working on that. We could gather preliminary data before we launched to convince ourselves that the product was having the effect we thought it was. But the great news is that it's very straightforward to kind of test this, right? The goal here is fiber diversity to create microbiome diversity and support a healthy microbiome and short-chain fatty acid production. These are super straightforward endpoints. So taking fecal samples from volunteers and then sequencing their microbiome, looking at transcriptomic data to see upregulation of the enzymes to produce short-chain fatty acids and digest fibers, and so all that preliminary data is really strong. And so we're looking to kind of like go into official human clinical trials that we can publish to kind of recapitulate those endpoints. We're working on products for sort of like athletic performance, sleep, vaginal health, skin health. We're thinking about kind of anything and everything, right? At the end of the day, these bacteria are capable of performing essentially any biological function on the planet. And so if it's a useful function, we could potentially program it into a probiotic and have it deliver that function to you. So I think kind of the sky is the limit here.
Why aren't all the big kind of probiotics players making genetically engineered probiotics?
It's a good question. And honestly, I have my hand wavy answers, but from the beginning, when I started this company, I always assumed I was going to find out. It took us 3 years from when I started the company and we launched our first product, and I was sure during that 3 years that somebody would beat me to the punch. But when we launched our first product, it was the world's first ever genetically engineered probiotic to go to market. And I was like, okay, well, now that we've done it, I'm sure others will want to do it as well. And 5 years later, we launched our second product. So now it's been 8 years since I started the company, and nobody else has done it. And so I'm not totally sure why others aren't doing this, but I have a feeling that it's going to become more and more popular. As we demonstrate this, I think there's fear that consumers will reject it, but we just haven't seen that. Consumers want products that work, they want benefits, and they're excited about those, and that's what we give them. And we had a lot of work to do to kind of validate the product and build it and manufacture it, so we did have to do a fair bit of fundraising before we launched. We were lucky to be able to do that through angels and some sort of like small VC cash. And then when we launched the product, we were able to start generating revenue, which has been great, and we've largely reached profitability with the product. We've also fundraised again last year as a way to kind of help scale our growth, and like we talked about earlier, entering into brick and mortar and retail, and so that takes a significant amount of investment. So we raised some money to kind of help accelerate that. But good news is we're largely in control of our own destiny with lots of revenue coming in, so that's really helpful.